How's it going, everybody? Brian Alvarez and Dave Meltzer here. Wrestling Observer Radio, September 12, 2016. Figure4online.com/WrestlingObserver.com. The first brand-exclusive SmackDown pay-per-view of the new era is in the books. We got a lot of new champions here tonight, including AJ Styles, new World Heavyweight Champion. Heath Slater and Rhino are the tag team champions. Becky Lynch is the women's champion. Miz still the Intercontinental Champion as Dolph Ziggler's losing streak continues. Dave, what did you think of the show?
I thought the main event was really good, and the rest of the show was fine. I don't think there was anything particularly bad. The Miz match with Dolph Ziggler was good. The other stuff was okay, and the main event was real strong. So it was, I don't know, it was a show. It was, I couldn't say it was a bad show, but it was, it was a decent show.
All right, let's start here at the beginning. First off, the pre-show, I'm sure you've heard, the panel was burying Dolph Ziggler 6 feet under, talking about what a loser this guy was, everybody picking Miz. And then we had a pre-show match, which was Baron Corbin. Actually, I never saw this match, so go ahead and run through the pre-show stuff.
Baron Corbin and Apollo Crews, yeah. Baron Corbin won with the End of Days. The match was fine. It was about it was about exactly what you would expect from the two. Apollo Crews did some good athletic stuff. Baron Corbin was tall.
And that was it.
That was pretty much it, yeah.
Baron Corbin won.
Yeah. Better, I would say about the same as most pre-show matches go. It's pretty solid, I suppose. But, Crews did a few cool things, but... nothing out of the ordinary, nothing really spectacular. The crowd was, they were into it to a degree, but not super into it or anything.
So the show opens up. They had 6 matches announced for this show, one of which involved Randy Orton, who ended up not wrestling on the show. I suppose we should talk about that first of all. Yeah,
to me, that's the big story, is Randy Orton. So evidently, he really did get a concussion against Lesnar, which was denied by everyone, and maybe it was diagnosed later. I don't know. He hasn't wrestled since. Obviously, they knew about it the weekend after, when he didn't work the last weekend, and he hasn't worked the last couple of weekends. So if a guy's got a concussion and you know about it, it's pretty difficult to advertise him for the next pay-per-view, because when you have a concussion, you don't know when it's going to clear up. You can't go, the pay-per-view's in 3 weeks. It may clear up, but it may not. So that was complete bullshit that they announced it to begin with, that they were doing the interviews and everything when they had no idea if they could present it. Today, when it was clear that he wasn't ready and he couldn't wrestle, to me, it's just ridiculous they didn't announce it ahead of time. It's false advertising. And when if any other organization did that, they would be crucified. And it would be very interesting to see, because now that you've got this will be another failed test by ESPN this week, because this is something that, you can't just kind of sit and go, they false advertised for 3 weeks. They didn't tell you the guy had a concussion while they were advertising him for this show. Then they pulled him, and they never told the audience that they pulled him. And all is well and good, That's,
All right, I got a question for you.
Yes.
I realize it's only one move, and I realize he didn't hit his head. But let me tell you something. If I had a concussion, I'm not doing an RKO.
I was very surprised he did the RKO. I was surprised they let him do it.
That's why I figured it couldn't be a concussion. It must have been staples or a shoulder injury or something. I thought there's no way this guy can have a concussion and they're letting him do an RKO. That's ridiculous.
I was shocked. that they let him do an RKO, because they've been very vigilant about concussions, to the point, obviously, they ended Daniel Bryan's career over it. And, again, I say they've been very vigilant about it, but what about, Daniel Bryan in Europe? It's like they're vigilant except when they're not vigilant. And I don't know it's really weird because...
And I also do remember there was a Randy Orton situation where he got a concussion and he was cleared 7 days later.
Yeah, but again, if you're cleared, you're cleared.
But that's still pretty interesting to be cleared 7 days after you suffer a concussion.
People have been cleared 3 days later. That's not unusual. Miz was cleared about a week later too. So that when you're people have concussions in a football game on a Sunday and they play the next week. That's not unusual. You never know. You can be cleared very quickly. So that's not an issue. But and I think that they probably for a week or so figured that, well, he'd be cleared, but you cannot assume on a concussion. You can't assume a timeline on a concussion. I mean, and they know it better than anyone. And that's why I'm really surprised at this one. Because especially with that lawsuit going on, because I mean the whole thing now, I mean, with the benefit of hindsight, of course, is that thing with Lesnar and Randy Orton was stupid beyond belief, number one. And number two, this is the worst part of the Lesnar Randy Orton thing. It isn't the worst part. The worst part's that he got a concussion. But the stupid part of it is, if you're going to do what's the purpose of doing a hard way, or even doing, what's the purpose of doing a hard way in wrestling?
There is no purpose. You get a blade.
Okay, no, but I'm saying in the old days, and again, this isn't the old days, there was a reason they did hard ways in wrestling, okay? And the reason they did was because the guy's face, if he did a hard way, would be marked up, it would look legit, and he would go on TV immediately after doing it with his face all marked up, and people would go, oh my God, it turned real. Or they would suspend disbelief. Or
you bleed and wear a bandage. I think that'd be an easier way to do it. Ric Flair made a career off of that.
Yeah, but you don't necessarily have the black eye and things like that. It doesn't look as graphic. I mean, that just looks like old, blade. There's the blade stuff, which is normal, but when you've got the real bad looking face and you got the black eye and the whole, which Randy didn't even have. But usually when you do the hard way, I mean, that's the other thing is, the hard way was an elbow to the forehead. I mean, usually when you do a hard way, you do a punch to the eyebrow, because you get a black eye out of the thing and it looks graphic. But the whole point is that you go on TV immediately, the people see it, they see what you look like, they think, oh my God, shit turned real. And the guy who got it demands, retribution. He wants a rematch. He's screaming, look what you did to my face, blah, blah, blah. And you're building up a rematch. Randy Orton, sort of in his next interview, kind of acknowledged, well, someday down the line, blah, 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 which was really weak as hell. The heat was all transferred to Shane McMahon. So it was like, I know what they did it. They did it because they wanted people after SummerSlam to go, oh my God, did wrestling turn real? Did Brock Lesnar double cross him on the script? That was what they wanted, and they did get it. But, that was,
I still think the bigger story is to go up to a normal human being and explain to them that in the old days of wrestling, you took a very small piece of a razor blade and you nicked your forehead and you bled everywhere to make it look graphic. Whereas here in 2016, we have a 290-pound man smash this dude in the face with his elbow and bust him open, give him a concussion and staples. And that's the new safe way to do it here in family sports entertainment.
Well, it's not the safe way to do it, but the reason they do it is because it's
less barbaric than nicking yourself with a razor blade?
It's less.
This is so ridiculous.
No, of course it's ridiculous.
So ridiculous.
Of course it's ridiculous, but the whole idea is, but it's this is like one of those things where it's like perception and everything like that. The perception of sponsors and things like that these guys are using razor blades to their forehead, that would never go. I mean, Pepsi or Coca-Cola or anybody, any car companies, all these people that these guys want, they're not going to sponsor something where guys use razor blades. Now,
but if you smash a guy and give him a concussion and bust him open and give him 7 staples, that's cool. We'll put Coke on your show.
Well, I mean, the point is that they have the caveat to say it was an accident.
Oh, I see.
Well, that. Look. Has anyone from WWE admitted what happened? That they told Randy Orton to lay there and get busted up? No. The whole thing you're supposed to believe is it just got carried away. Shit happens in a physical sport, which it does. Guys do get busted open from time to time. All the time. I mean, you see it regular. It's a regular thing. You don't see what that was because that wasn't a regular thing. But they were looking for the idea of something really graphic, a unique finish to the match to get that kind of talk, which they did get. I mean, everything that, they got that finish with all the confusion and everything like that. They swerved their wrestlers. They swerved their referees. They swerved their audience. They got all that. So in that sense, it was what they wanted. This concussion is what they wanted? No, they weren't looking for a concussion. But unfortunately, with what they were trying to do, a concussion was a possibility, which turned into what happened. So it was very, just in this day and age, it was stupid as hell.
Maybe they need to hire Bret Hart. He can go to the Performance Center and teach everybody how to safely blade, but make it look like it was an accident.
Yeah, but that would get out too. So, the blading's a thing of the past, unfortunately. The other thing that sort of concerns me is from watching the show, but I want to get back to Orton in a second, but the thing that concerns me is that they're obviously going somewhere with Miz and Daniel Bryan, because they went from they were going to run away from it because they couldn't go anywhere with it, and all the heat was going to go to Ziggler. And they, after a week or two, I think maybe they've just figured that the Ziggler thing's a dead end. Again, it kind of felt like it was when I was watching the match. They had a good match, but it did feel like a dead end because, even in the commentary, and I didn't watch the pre-show, but they just in everything, it's just like Dolph Ziggler's this guy who just, obviously they're going to do something drastic with him. They'll probably go heel or something. Who knows what it's going to be, but he's, right now until he gets there, he's this guy who is going to give you a good match and then lose at the end. It's not the greatest place to be. So, that was the deal there with that thing. I don't remember where it was. So the heat, the teased heat is back with Miz and Daniel Bryan. And, it's, there's a couple of scenes there, especially with Miz stealing Daniel Bryan's moves and everything like that, where they're building something up. And I sure as hell hope it's not a match, because that would be really weird. But look, after there's a lot of weird stuff that they're doing right now. But we'll just see. But yeah, the Orton thing, it was just this is a real bad one on a bunch of different levels. Obviously the concussion thing was the worst part of it, but the false advertising was pretty bad. Even today, when it's out and everything like that. And, just going radio silent and not letting anyone know. It's just, again, if any other, let's just say, forget about sports. Okay. I can do the sports analogy and everyone knows the sports analogy. And obviously, if somebody did this in a real sport, there would be, the media would kill them. If it was a regulated sport, that level of false advertising, they would be destroyed. They'd be fined by the commissions and everything like that. But forget about that. We'll just say this isn't sport. If just say that let's say that a famous band, the Rolling Stones, are playing in Seattle this weekend, okay, and it's not Mick Jagger, but somebody in the band is. Whatever. Got a concussion, cannot perform. They've known it for 3 weeks. They don't tell anyone, okay? And the day of the show, it gets out. And he hasn't performed on the whole tour anyway. And they don't tell you why. And then they come to Seattle, and, he doesn't perform. And the word gets out during the day he's not performing. And they still, will they didn't deny it. They avoid it. It's like that could, it couldn't even happen in that type of entertainment world. I used to go to plays, and if one of the lead characters is not there because they were ill, there's a freaking sign in front. Blah, blah, blah is not, and these aren't drawing cards. These are just people in plays. You know what I mean? Blah, blah, blah is sick tonight. His understudy is in the thing. And that's just how it's done. That's just normal treating your audience. Wrestling, wrestling is, it has been for forever a sleazy business. And from time to time, they try to pretend that they've taken it out of the sleazy thing. And it's not a sleazy business. And this entire Randy Orton thing, from the frickin' elbow to the head, to the working of the boys, to the working of the referee, to the lying to the fans, to the false advertising, to today, is proof positive that all this stuff about this is a new business. I mean, it's like, hey, it's a new business for the guys. The guys aren't as screwed up as the guys from the past, without a doubt. You get better match quality than you used to get in the past. You know, to a degree, it's a different kind of match quality. I shouldn't say you don't get as many bad matches as in the past. I'll say that. You could say that you don't get. It's too patterned and things like that, but that's a matter of taste. But I mean, we really don't get the real shit matches that we used to get from time to time in the past, or actually fairly often in the past. But as far as like the core of the business and everything like that, this was a hell of an indictment of the business. I thought, just up and down, this whole thing from the care, the lack of care of the talent to the again, the manipulation to the just outright the outright false advertising and deceit of the fans of, again, a guy who Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt, to an extent, it was one of the big pushed matches on the show. And, it wasn't the main event, thank God, but it still was a key match.
Show it up with a 9/11 video, and then we had a Shane McMahon video talking about the show. And then Shane McMahon came out to his music, and then Daniel Bryan came out to his music, and then they talked about the show. Guys are going to get chances that never got chances before. Going to show the red brand, that we're the number one brand, blah, blah, blah. Then 6 girls came out one at a time with all of their music. 15 minutes passed before the first match entered the ring. And by the way, they ended 25 minutes before the top of the hour, so they only had 6 matches, and I figured they'd add more as the day went on, but if anything, they subtracted matches. Although we did get Kane in place of Randy Orton.
We essentially got every match with the Kane thing, yeah.
So, first match, Becky Lynch, Carmella, Nikki Bella, Naomi, Alexa Bliss, Natalya for the SmackDown Women's title. It was an elimination match. Very early on, Carmella tried her finish on Nikki, but she escaped, hit an Alabama slam. We had a stacked-up superplex spot. All the girls ended up outside, and Naomi did a big springboard dive. And finally, Naomi...
I got to say something about that. Okay, so Naomi does a springboard dive, which is a cool move.
Are you going to bring up David Otunga calling her the best athlete because of that one move?
No, I don't care that he called her the best athlete. She's a good athlete. But he said, oh, my God, no woman has ever done that. I mean, how many times has a woman done that move? Hundreds of times. It's like...
He's horrible at his job.
Well, that was a horrible line. I gotta say this. And Morrow is my friend and everything, but I thought that he was trying too hard.
Dude, he's trying to save the show. He's trying to do commentary for 3 guys who are dragging the show down.
Yeah, I just thought too intense for too long. And I think he's the best announcer in the business. It was actually the same complaint I had with Daniel Bryan, and obviously Daniel Bryan has totally toned that down on the last 2 shows. And I thought that Morrow was doing the same. It was almost like there was stuff that like when the stuff is really good and you go crazy for it, that's great. But when the stuff is just there and you're trying to force going crazy for it because it's not there. It doesn't feel right. I think that's when you kind of I had people that sent stuff in that complaining about Morrow, and you never get complaints about Morrow. So I mean it's
of all the announcers to complain about, they complain about Morrow.
Today, no, usually no one does. No, tonight,
dude. Even tonight, Otunga was so ungodly bad. Yeah, tonight.
Okay. But everyone expects that. So that's not a big thing. But I mean, look, Morrow was...
This is what this has come to? You just accept that Otunga's terrible?
Well, you have to. I mean, look, Otunga's never been good. I mean, maybe, again, they threw him to the wolves. He may get good someday. I mean, it's just, he's not ready. He's not ready for it. But, I mean, when he goes like, when he said that, like, no woman has ever done that move, and it's like, come on. I mean, there's wrestling exaggeration, but, I mean... God, I mean, I don't know. I just thought that was a pretty bad deal there.
So Natalya tossed Nikki, put Naomi in the sharpshooter for the submission after Nikki had laid her out. We had Nikki hitting the TKO and Natalya for the pin. Carmella rolled up Nikki and grabbed the tights for the pin. And came down to Carmella versus Becky. Carmella versus Becky.
Well, there's nothing wrong with Becky being in there at the end.
No, Becky's fine, but Carmella there at the very end, she did not look good at all, and
she didn't have a good match. It was
Becky pinned her, won the title.
No, disarmer.
Disarmer, I apologize. Point is, this match was much better than I expected, but Carmella was not good, and the fact that she was the last girl in there at the end, I don't know. But yeah, Becky's your new champion.
I wouldn't say it was better. I would say it was about exactly as good as I expected.
Really? I was not expecting it to be this good.
I just thought it was there. I didn't think it was anything special. I mean, there was nothing particularly good or bad about it. I just thought it was just like a match, and you could see when it went, because it was so long, like Carmella and Alexa Bliss in particular had moments where you could see that they were kind of green, especially doing a long match. Natalia was fine. Naomi was fine. Becky Lynch was very good. Nikki was fine. So, I thought it was a solid, decent match.
We had Miz meeting with his kid Jagger Eaton, and before Jagger could explain who he was, Miz cut him off and said, "I know who you are." I thought, how about the rest of us who do not watch Nickelodeon?
I know, that's hilarious. They I don't know if they assume or what.
Apparently they assume, but Jagger Eaton cut this absolutely horrendous promo, the most wooden promo you ever heard. And I don't even know what the point of this was, but cut a promo on The Miz.
The point of it was that he slammed the door in Miz's face, and Miz got upstaged because Miz is trying to pretend to be an A-lister, and they were just trying to show that even like B-listers, think he's a joke. So
that's great for your Intercontinental Champion.
Well, that's Miz's character.
Who beat Dolph Ziggler, by the way. And Bray Wyatt beating up Randy Orton backstage, which led to Orton being pulled from the show. We had the semifinal match for the tag team titles, Usos versus the Hype Bros, the Usos heels. Zack Ryder was cheered a little bit. Nobody cared one bit about Mojo Rawley.
Yeah, well, it's Mojo Rawley. It's a bad gimmick.
Lots of chin locks. Ryder made a dramatic hot tag. Mojo ran wild. Nobody cared. Zack got a blind tag. Mojo got sent into the dasher boards. Jay hit a chop block, drop kick to the knee, same way they put out American Alpha. Put Zack in the half crab for the submission. So the Usos, after losing earlier in the tournament, are now on their way to the finals.
Yeah. I liked the way they did the work on the knee at the end. I thought the match was fine. I mean, it was nothing special or anything like that, but, it was watchable. It was all right.
A horrible segment with Heath Slater and Rhino, which, thank God, I missed. But I was told it was hideous. A lot of comedy.
That was
Vince McMahon comedy.
That was bad. That was real bad Vince McMahon comedy. Yeah. So it's like Heath said that. It was bad. Heath Slater said that his wife had made crab dip and he had to go to the bathroom 5 times. But the idea is that he didn't know the camera was on. So then when Rhino says, the camera's still on, he's going, swerved. So it was like he was trying to act like he swerved Rhino, and it was all a joke, except he still had to go to the bathroom and he ran off. Yeah, it was...
that sure played into the storyline later.
Yeah, right. It was that's your Vince McMahon stuff that... Yeah, what can you say?
We had Daniel Bryan and Miz doing a segment backstage. Miz said, "I want to renegotiate my contract. I want more money, and I want it in my contract that I am respected."
How do you do that?
I don't just write it. Miz is respected. He also wants X amount of money. Yeah. So Daniel Bryan just stares at him, and Miz calls him a coward, and then says, "Bryan, go sit in your cubby and watch me do what you can't do anymore." He says, "When I beat Dolph Ziggler, my demands are going to escalate." And I thought, I guess he's losing a title here tonight. Little did I know.
He didn't lose it.
They had a long match. There were so many spots in this match designed to make you think that Ziggler was going to beat The Miz. And they go on and on and on and on and on. And finally, at the end, Maurice sprays perfume or something in Ziggler's eyes, and Miz hits the skull-crushing finale and beats him. And that is the end of Dolph Ziggler. Miz goes to the back with the title. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, it plays in the storyline. The storyline is that Dolph Ziggler keeps losing, but having good matches. And he had a good match. Second best match on the show.
This guy's dead.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the idea. They're trying to kill him, so they rebuild him. Whether it's going to work or not, that's a different story. But, that is the goal. The goal is to kill him right now. So that's what they're doing.
His character's been dead for years, and now they're going to just absolutely bury it 8 feet under and expect that like a heel turn is going to remedy him and make him one of the top stars on this brand. They're out of their minds.
Well, that's the storyline. That's the storyline is exactly what you said. So we'll see.
Good luck.
Well, yeah. I'm not saying it's going to work, but they got to make it work because the one thing about this show tonight is, boy, granted, John Cena wasn't there and Randy Orton wasn't there. Those are like the 2 most enduring stars of the brand. But boy, does this roster look thin.
You don't say.
Yep.
That was my point about the show starting 15 minutes late and ending 25 minutes early. And they stretched and stretched and stretched to get that much time.
Yeah, and they had a really long main event.
So Bray Wyatt comes out.
They had a really long Intercontinental match.
Yes, they did.
But I thought, like, for Miz, the story of Miz is, Miz is doing all of Daniel Bryan's spots in there. That's why I know that they're building to something. He did, just a lot of Daniel Bryan stuff. And actually, I thought that Miz was way above his usual level. I thought Miz
in the ring was more impressive than Dean Ambrose tonight.
Dean Ambrose, I thought, had a good match too, though. I don't know.
AJ Styles had a good match. AJ Styles had a really good match.
Yeah, well, AJ Styles was tremendous. Dean, it was very clear watching that match that AJ Styles was on a different level from Dean Ambrose. But I thought that Dean was pretty solid. But I wouldn't. You could say that Miz was really good. Ziggler was good too. But Miz was way above usual, without a doubt.
Bray came out, and the ring announcer had a note saying Randy Orton was not clear to compete tonight, so Bray said, I want you to count to 10. Count him out so that I can win via forfeit. So they count him out, and then the ring announcer says, you will be fighting Bray tonight, one way or the other, in a no-holds-barred match against this man. Out comes Kane. So we have Kane versus Bray Wyatt. It's a no-holds-barred match, so we got table spots, we got chairs, all sorts of stuff. Kane with the choke slam, big cover. Bray kicks out. Bray hits a Uranage into a chair, near fall there. And finally, out limps Randy Orton, who, of course, had been beaten up by Bray earlier. He's selling an ankle injury here. Limps down to the ring, hits an RKO. Kane hits the choke slam. Kane pins Bray Wyatt. That was interesting.
Yeah, well, the idea was that Randy Orton cost him it, so it's to keep the Randy Orton thing going with Bray Wyatt. So they just figured that it does make sense, where they're going next to do that, even though on the surface, Kane pinning Bray Wyatt wouldn't seem to be the smart thing to do. But
is Kane in line for a world title shot now?
God, I hope not.
That's a big win.
It is a big win. I hope not.
And AJ meeting with 2 random shirtless jobbers backstage.
Why? Okay, so we're
dude, I don't know why.
We're watching a pay-per-view. We're near the main event. We got 2 matches to go, right? What are these guys doing in their trunks?
Dude, why are you asking me? I don't know.
It's like, yeah, why are these guys? That was whatever.
AJ's gimmick is belittling random people backstage and on the set of Talking Smack. That's what he's been doing for a while. Why there were 2 random shirtless jobbers in their trunks backstage? Maybe they thought there was going to be a standby match because the show was going short. But there wasn't. He told them they had no future. And quite frankly, on this show, he was absolutely right. The Usos versus Heath Slater and Rhino for the tag team titles in the finals of the tournament. A very, very average SmackDown match. Rhino got the hot tag. Heath tagged back in immediately, leaping DDT. Jay pulled him out of the ring. Rhino ended up hitting Jimmy with a gore behind the ref's back. Heath climbed on top, got the win. Heath Slater and Rhino are your SmackDown Tag Team Champions. There was a happy ending to this storyline.
Yeah, big pop.
Yeah, I wonder why. They're the 2 most over guys on the show, basically.
AJ
Fans
Styles.
loved these men.
AJ Styles was the most over guy on the show by leaps and bounds, actually.
He was very popular as well as the top heel.
Yeah, but it's a different level. It's like over is like a comedy joke, and over is a main eventer are different worlds, and they're very much not main eventers. Main eventers aren't there going to the bathroom 5 times during the show.
Dude, who else got a reaction like these two guys?
No, they did. They got a big pop. Like I said, they got a big pop, but it's not like it was.
Well, our other main eventers on the show got no reaction, so I'm going to give them that.
Who? AJ and Ambrose?
Well, let's see. We had Ziggler, we had Miz fighting for the Intercontinental title. I mean, technically, they should be considered.
They got
upper level guys.
The fans were into that match by once it got rolling.
Anyway, they cut a promo afterwards, and everybody loves them. They said they were getting a double wide. So there you go. We had Dean Ambrose versus AJ in the main event. Fans turning on Dean. A lot of boos from him during this match. Everybody loved AJ. Every time Dean made a comeback, there were boos. They had a 27-minute match, I believe.
And 25.
All sorts of big spots back and forth. We had a slingshot into the post from the ring apron. A big comeback in the ring. AJ springboard 450. Dean kicked out. Drop kicked him outside. Tope over the announce table. Dive over the barricade into the crowd. Finally, they get back into the ring, and AJ hits him with a low blow behind the ref's back after the ref got bumped. Hits the Styles Clash. 1, 2, 3. Crowd goes crazy. AJ Styles is the new WWE World Heavyweight Champion.
Mm-hmm.
Thought it was a good match.
Really good match. I thought it was an excellent match. So AJ would have held the, let's see.
TNA, Ring of Honor, WWE, New Japan.
AJ's held the Ring of Honor title?
I think he has, hasn't he?
He may have. I don't remember him holding the Ring of Honor title. I don't know about that one.
I'll find out.
Obviously IWGP, TNA, and WWE.
Let's see here. Maybe he hasn't held the Ring of Honor title. Let's see. AJ. God, he's had a lot of them. He's had the Christian Wrestling Entertainment Championship.
That's Vince Russo's promotion, maybe.
Is it really? Man.
It might have been. I don't know. Vince Russo had a promotion with a name similar to that.
All right. He had
there's been other Christian wrestling federations, so it could have been a different one.
IWGP, PWG. He was the Ring of Honor Pure Champion.
Okay.
TNA and NWA World Heavyweight Champion. And there you go.
Yeah, he's had a lot of them. I don't think so. TNA, NWA, IWGP, and WWE. He'd probably be the first one to have held those 4.
There you go.
I would think. I can't come up with anyone else.
Hall of Fame candidate now, strong.
I don't know. I mean, stronger. He's had a great year, so I think this year certainly strengthens his case. He had ever since he left TNA. He's been so it's been almost 3 years. Last 3 years these 3 years have been 3 Hall of Fame years. I mean, there's not even a question about that. But is that enough for the Hall of Fame total? I mean, he was good before then too, but I can't say his TNA run was Hall of Fame run, but everything since then has been for sure.
Do you know anything about Raw for tomorrow?
No, I don't know anything for Raw other than they're going against football, and it's going to be tough, and they better have a good show because I think there was a lot of negativity coming off of last week's show.
Let's see what we've got here. Cesaro and Sheamus battle in match 5.
Yeah, right, of course.
And that's all they've got so far.
So Cesaro has to get another win.
Oh, here we go. Here's your preview. We got Roman Reigns is going to attempt to work his way into the championship match at the pay-per-view.
Right. Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens is the main event. That's right.
That's right. We've got whatever's going on with Sasha Banks, who apparently they took off of the website all references to her getting a championship match at the pay-per-view, so maybe that's the storyline now. Will it be her or Bayley? Got the best of 7.
Yeah. They've changed the storyline on that, I guess.
And then whatever's going on with Bo Dallas, they're plugging here as one of the 5 top stories for Raw Monday. Well, alrighty. Rockhold and Jacare, what's up?
They're fighting November 26th in Melbourne, Australia, in the main event. So evidently, Luke got a new contract offer, and now he likes the money.
So his modeling career has come to an abrupt halt?
No, he's still going to do modeling, but he's going to train. They're making it worth his while to train for fighting. So this is a big one. I mean, Jacare has been waiting for that title shot, still not getting it. So I would say if Luke Rockhold is fighting, well, we already know that. Yeah, so Luke Rockhold's fighting Jacare. That pretty much guarantees Chris Weidman and Yoel Romero for Madison Square Garden. So, which I kind of had heard that anyway. Now, Robbie Lawler pulled out of the Madison Square Garden show against Cerrone, so they got to get a new opponent for Cerrone. And Aldo will headline. I don't know if it'll be against Alvarez. I mean, not Aldo. I mean, McGregor will headline. I don't know if it's going to be against well, I don't know that for sure, but I would assume he's going to headline because they don't really have anything else I can come up with for that show, unless I don't know, unless they go with John Jones and Rumble, but you can't count on John Jones being cleared. So John Jones and Lesnar right now are scheduled to have their hearing on October the 10th. So we'll see what happens there.
Let's do some mailbag questions here. Annie wants to know, would it...
I'm trying to think that, there was some other stuff on the Raw stuff, and now I don't remember what it is. So Roman Reigns, the Roman Reigns thing. So okay, they went to China, and they did not draw well in China. That was a big surprise. They did well in the Philippines, and there wasn't any real. I don't think there was any real big news from those shows. So, yeah.
All right. Andy here says, do you believe that tonight's WWE event would have done less buys than the 2006 December to
I
Dismember?
do want to bring up. I actually do want to bring something up. So the Google numbers for whatever this is worth on the Punk fight were very strong. So it may change the dynamic. I don't know. It's like I'll probably have an idea by midweek, or at least an idea. I won't have a number, but I'll have an idea if it did good, bad, or indifferent. So, but it may there's usually pretty accurate in the sense of if those numbers are real high, the buy rate's usually really high. If that buy rate's high, that's all Punk. So what that kind of says would be, if it's the case that a lot of you got a lot of wrestling fans buying it, bought that show, which makes sense. I mean, we got a ton of feedback from it.
All right. Do you believe that tonight's WWE event would have done less buys than December to Dismember if it was shown on regular pay-per-view?
And there was no network at all?
Yes.
Let's see. That was like 55,000. It challenged it, yeah. I don't know if it would have done less, but it would have challenged it.
Jeffrey here says, when CM Punk walked out of WWE, was his contract up? And if not, why didn't WWE hold him to it the way they have with Daniel Bryan?
That's a completely different story. So CM Punk's contract was expiring a couple months later, but it did not expire then. And the reason they didn't hold him to it, they tried to hold him to it. They tried to freeze him. And, he got a lawyer and basically threatened to sue over medical malpractice, and they got all scared, and they released him when he asked for the release, and paid him a bunch of money to go away. And now they're really mad about it, but they already settled, so that's kind of the situation that we got. So, yeah, it's because he threatened to sue and had enough that and he had enough that, that's the same thing that happened with Del Rio. When Del Rio got fired, if you remember, they tried to keep him from working in pro wrestling or mixed martial arts for 1 year after they fired him based on his contract, which you could never get away with that. And, they went and they kind of there were the implied threats that we're going to talk about, racism and things like that, and so everything got quickly settled, and he was allowed to work wherever he wanted. And this time, when Del Rio quit this time, they knew enough that he's able to work wherever he wants. So yeah, that's what it was. But his contract, they didn't want him going to UFC or anything like that, and they absolutely tried to hold him to the contract.
Caesar here says, regarding the Tyson-Buster Douglas fight, why did that match take place in the Tokyo Dome at the time Tyson was at the height of his popularity? So why wasn't the fight in Vegas?
Because the Japanese paid a lot of money for the fight. They wanted a championship fight in Japan, and that was the deal. And it was also, Buster Douglas was considered such a joke as a contender that it wasn't considered a very sellable fight in the United States because of what a joke the opponent was. But in Japan, just the idea at that time, because Mike Tyson was so big in Japan, that just seeing Mike Tyson to the Japanese was pretty big. Although, they didn't sell out the Tokyo Dome with it. In fact, that was either the day before or the day after. I forget which it was, but it was New Japan had a show, and New Japan show greatly outdrew the Tyson fight. But it was a big show. I mean, it was the one where the All Japan and New Japan guys wrestled each other, which hadn't happened in so long, and it was Saruta and I think it was Saruta and Yatsu against I don't even remember exactly who it was, but there was a Choshu and maybe George Takano against Tenryu and Misawa, which was actually a hell of a match. And there was a Saruta match where may have been Fujinami and Kimura. I remember Kengo Kimura being on the opposite side of of Jumbo Saruta. And Stan Hansen wrestled Big Van Vader, which was actually a pretty legendary match on that show. So it was a really big New Japan show. But they sold out. And the Tyson fight sold maybe, 30,000 tickets or something like that.
This person here says there's a process to playing at a high level in a professional sport. Kid leagues in high school, then college, then possibly being drafted, probably years in the minors, AAA for baseball, D-League for basketball, etc., then maybe a shot in the majors. The Punk story could not have happened in the NBA, MLB, or the NHL.
We already established that Master P had something similar, and Michael Jordan played. Now, granted, it wasn't Major League; it was AA, but and again, combat sports are completely different from team sports anyway. In the marketing and every aspect of it, so you can't compare. Team sports are sold based on the team, and there's season tickets, and there's all these things. Combat sports are sold based on individual events, and they vary greatly, and drawing cards are far more valuable. That's why Floyd Mayweather and Pacquiao and these guys make so much money compared to the best stars in team sports. Individual sports stars are always going to be paid more because they're bigger drawing cards. So you can't really use that analogy. Could this have happened in boxing? Absolutely, it could happen in boxing. It has happened in boxing. Brian Adams, who was hardly the pro wrestling star that CM Punk was. Brian Adams was booked in the semi-main event of a pay-per-view. So for all the people who were saying this could never happen, UFC's a joke, and he had never fought before, and I think he was probably 40 years old or close to 40 at the time. And the reason he was booked in the semi-main was because Randy Savage was managing him, and the idea was that Randy Savage would promote the show, and Randy Savage would manage and be in Brian Adams' corner. But then Brian Adams started training to be a boxer, and he didn't have 2 years of training to be a boxer either. He was just starting to train to be a boxer, and I guess maybe, if you're not a boxer and you think you're a tough guy because you're really big, and then you start like actually training to be a boxer, you'll get humbled very quickly because boxing is so much of a skill sport that, it's not about, I'm just going to throw some haymaker and knock some little guy out. It doesn't work that way in boxing. But the point is if CM Punk, wanted to go into boxing instead of MMA, he would have gotten the same opportunity. That's just how it is. So anyway, that's the answer, I guess.
Brian says, what is the contract status of Roderick Strong?
Roderick Strong's with the WWE. I don't know when he starts, but he's there.
This person says, how long will it be before WWE can determine whether the current brand split is a success or a failure? And if it's a failure, what amount of time should they wait before merging the rosters again?
They can't do it right away. It's too quick of an admission. And I don't know that it's a failure yet anyway. It's way too soon to say anything one way or the other. It's not a time. I mean, there's going to come a time when we'll figure it out. If the attendance goes down, because right now they really aren't doing brand specific house shows. I mean, this week was really the first week they did it because it was the Raw crew, but they had seen it with a Raw crew that went overseas. So we had a Raleigh show, and I think we got a show tomorrow night where it's going to be a SmackDown show. Last Monday we had a pure SmackDown show that did 3,000 people. So, which, I mean, it's not good, but it's not terrible, and it's not billed as SmackDown shows, even though it is SmackDown shows, which is really interesting the way they're advertising. They're not, because before, like, the whole thing was, well, what happens when they start doing these SmackDown shows, and they advertise SmackDown shows? They're not advertising these. The house shows are not Raw or SmackDown shows. They're just WWE, because I think they learned the lesson of advertise SmackDown, you don't draw very well. So even though it will be pretty much pure shows at some point, so they learned from that. I don't want to say mistake, but they learned how they're handling that. Ratings wise, so far, the ratings were bad against the Olympics, but SmackDown's up considerably overall. So far I would call it a success, but the problem is that with these thin rosters, 6-9 months down the road, there's not a lot of there's not a lot of depth, and then you may be running into trouble. So I think that's the point where it's not necessarily the business thing first, but the lack of alternatives for your main events that may run out, in which case then business will go down because you're doing the same thing over and over again. That's the thing that they got to worry about. But at that point, they can always bring up NXT guys, because there are enough NXT guys that are good enough now to freshen things up. So, I don't expect the brand split to end anytime soon. And at some point, again, 6 months, 9 months down the road, we'll look at it and we'll see.
All right, everybody. On that note, we're going to wrap it up. We're going to be back tomorrow after Raw. We'll do more questions, talk all of the news. There's a whole bunch of shows up on the front page. More on the SmackDown pay-per-view. We've got news shows. We got all sorts of stuff. New back issue of The Observer's up tomorrow. So check it all out, everybody. We'll talk to you again after a while.